Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Once again, up at the crack of dawn. Actually, really happy that I've started this video right before the ripe old hour of 7 a.m. So perhaps a new record, actually. And with that said, I would like to wish you the best of the best before we get into this new week of potentially new opportunities. Obviously, futures are going to be trading for the new week as well. And I want to follow up on Bitcoin short-term analysis from yesterday, as we did hit the short-term areas that we were looking for. So putting the interest on the Krown trading application over here, which can be found at app.krowntrading.net, we do see that the open interest actually did come down about 100 million from yesterday to today, which is a little bit cause for pause, but still want to line it up with the other things that are a little bit more important that are suggesting in the short-term time frame price action. On top of that, we do see that the fear and greed index ticked up actually 2 points as Bitcoin does play out another $200 rally off yesterday's short-term range, and Bitcoin dominance slightly down, but more or less steady there. Want to be following up on that as we get into the new week and have the new weekly there as well. So let's go into the actual price action analysis charts and looking at the daily. Once again, Bitcoin finding a little bit of a bounce off of the 21 exponential moving average, which yesterday we said very short term, very likely Bitcoin comes back down and tests around 11,500. Probably going to bounce off there, which we did see. And now this is actually going to initiate a target a little bit higher as we do play out the short-term range here, or actually this would be more so a medium-term range, I suppose. Anyways, as it looks like on the very low-term timeframes, let's actually go to the same chart that we had yesterday. I would be looking for a move all the way back up to about 11,850 to 11,900 as Bitcoin does really grind up against this liquid zone right here in the medium-term timeframes. So with that said, we've been using this area for the last few days kind of to denote continuation to the next target to the upside, of which I would say somewhere between actually around 811. Oh my God, my dyslexia is absolutely killer today. And man, I probably definitely need a cup of coffee as well. 11,880-ish region all the way up to probably like 12,000 bucks officially. So looking at this, we actually did confirm hidden bullish divergence on the 12-hour or 10-hour, 12-hour and daily. 12-hour putting in a local low yesterday. Any sort of a closure above the 21 today, which is going to be closing in about 7 hours, 58 minutes and 29 seconds. Wow, man, I really can't get my numbers right today. That is crazy. I do apologize for that. I understand that's probably going to be really fucking annoying, but hey, I'm imperfect, man, and I think I have dyslexia. I actually do think that I have dyslexia. It's kind of embarrassing, I guess. But overall, yes, I would be looking for this to play up to the top side of the range, which in this case, the easy target on that one would very likely be somewhere right around here at around that 11,850-ish target to 11,000 or 12,000-ish region essentially. And as we do see, momentum oscillators should be turning up on the 12-hour as well, with any sort of a 12-hour dildo closure above 11,624. So yes, technically, while Bitcoin has actually not confirmed the trigger that I set for this right here, well, it actually, actually it did. We did take out the top side of that last little consolidation high, and now kind of working its way back up. So actually, yes, that was one of the criteria. The other criteria was getting a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo closure above 11,690. We'll call it right here. But either way, I do believe that it will very likely follow through here, as all the lower term time frame momentum oscillators are kind of lining up with the medium term time frame oscillators, which we'll look at right now. 4-hour Stokes will be pointed to the north side and gaining momentum to the upside as long as we are closing 4-hour dildos above 11,535, which is actually that last little what would be a higher low. So if you're just trading the trend here as well, it's quite a simple area, as long as Bitcoin's above this region right here, there still looking for this one to lift up a little bit more towards that, we'll just call it like $11,900-ish target, maybe all the way up to 12,000 as well. And by the same token, if we do take out this area to the downside and especially close a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo below it, then I would be looking for another drive all the way down actually to 11,200-ish region, the same area that we had for the short term if Bitcoin did break below, what was it yesterday? Let me pull it back up on over here. If it broke below about 11,430, we'll call it. So that is still actually very much within still very much viable. It's just, it looks like Bitcoin's going to blast up to the upside right here and blast up. And by blast up, I don't mean like a fucking massive girthy green dildo. I just mean, kind of float up through the ranges. And again, going level by level, very simple stuff. It does look like most things are lining up for that. So just going through the lower term timeframes, we already saw the 4-hour, 3 hours popping up as well, and will remain to the upside as long as Bitcoin is closing these dildos above 11,627. Bi-hourly is showing 11,000. 11,655. So you can see them all building up on top of each other, by the way, which is typically a good sign, especially at resistance like this when you are grinding it up. And the hourly actually showing 11,680. So suggesting more immediate pressure to this region. And we do see all of these oscillators kind of coming from the same area as well. And these are very low time frames, by the way. So it does need to be mediated with the medium term time frames, which we'll get into in just a second, or I guess we kind of already covered them just briefly. But overall, what's also of great interest here is that Bitcoin is going to very likely be breaking this trend line, which has been holding in the highs on this consolidation since 14th of August. So going back almost a couple weeks ago now. Actually, I guess that would be about a week and a half, we'll call it. So overall, with this next, with the next closure above, especially if it closes above, let's say that last little spike low at 11.6, very, very likely we will see this one pull through. And looking at 4-hour RSI, still kind of holding the range as well. Overall, this to me does look more or less constructive on a 4-hour. You can kind of see that this is very likely to line up with, I believe we were looking at this as something on the 12-hour or maybe the 10-hour. Let's see. Does it work for a 10-hour or a 12-hour? No, I think it was a 12-hour. Yeah, there we go. Nice little falling channel right here, which typically does break out to the upside. Now, obviously, when it is playing off the downside area like this, very likely to bounce nonetheless on it. So at the end of the day, probably would be looking for this one to work its way back up, and this would be considered a rejection of the bearish control zone at the same time, while flagging out, which again would kind of add on to the inherently constructiveness of this, at least in the medium term time frames. So that is also why I do think that Bitcoin very likely finds its way back up here. Now that does not imply a breakage above this region right here, and I always wanted to mediate these sort of conversations, because remember that this channel is really designed for traders, not like fucking crypto moon boys, not Bitcoin fucking fanboys, not Bitcoin hate boys, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, because that's not trading. And at the end of the day, it's always going to be a muted response. So while I am looking for a move back into this region right here, give or take like $50 from that region, it doesn't imply anything more than that. The next set that I'd be looking at, however, would be this area right here as a long-term time frame range identifier, similar to the $11,000 area to the downside. And as long as we're kind of playing between those two levels, which we'll just refer to colloquially as 11,000 and 12,000, then there's not really anything new to update from the long-term time frames, and more or less, can expect kind of the same. Well, expectations, maybe not the best word for that, as I really like to get away from that, as a trader, but still, that would imply that if we do take out this area to the upside, we'll call it 12,000, especially on, well, if we are using a 12-hour, we actually could use 11,900 or a daily, and I would be looking for a move all the way back up here, actually towards 12,300ish region. Wow, again 11,000. Jesus, no, I mean 12,300ish region right here, and potential for continuation for more. And this would start to look really, really good from a weekly standpoint, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I still want to work our way through the medium-term timeframes right now. So looking at the 12-hour, yes, following through. 10-hour already was there. That was actually kind of the key from yesterday as well, and in both coming from a very nice area on 10-hour and 12-hour Stokes, as you can see right here. 12-hour about to freshly cross up from the critical zone, and this is all coming along the side of the same read that we saw in 12-hour RSI, while historical volatility percentile has been contracting since the last, since end of July, essentially. I need a sippy sip of this water, man. My mouth is absolutely dry right now. Oh, there we go. Nice little sippy sip in the morning, and maybe even might wake me up, although it's not necessarily coffee, so maybe not. Anyways, by the same token, I should talk about the downside now as well. Not that I'm necessarily looking for it to happen, but as always, my opinion does not matter on these sorts of things. I only trade technical analysis. And if Bitcoin were to take out this area right here, and we could actually use 11,450, even on a 2-hour or 4-hour delta closure, I would look for a quick move down to 11,200ish region, probably a small bounce there with continuation implied down to $11,000 region right here. $11,000 region has the same sort of implications as the $12,000 region to the upside. But vice versa for the downside, very likely propelling a move all the way back down below 10,000 with a bounce somewhere right around here at about 10,500ish region, maybe even a reversal as well if things got a little bit crazy, maybe a trap sort of behavior. But I don't think that it's right to assume that before we actually see it in real time. More importantly, I'd actually be looking for a move all the way back down here towards 9,800 and 9,900, tentatively speaking. Also in line with the gap on CMEs, which is still very much present there. Although I wouldn't be surprised if we don't test this one like anytime soon either. So again, while I am talking about the downside right here, that does not necessarily mean that I am looking for the downside to happen. I actually do think that at least the medium term upside happens within this region. And looking at CMEs, it does more or less agree. We do see the same sort of, or do we see the same sort of? No, we don't see the same sort of divergences there. It's only present on Bitcoin, and it has been initiated not just on the 10-hour, 12-hour, but also the daily as well. And let me just confirm this once again. So on the 10-hour, we have 1, 2, 3 stabs correlating with 1, 2, 3 higher lows. Yes, indeed, looking good there. 12-hour looking for, whoops, hey, get the fuck out of my face. 1, 2, 3 stabs. Yes, 1, 2, 3 lows right there. Same areas essentially. Do we see it on the daily as well? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yes, indeed, we do. Coming in right into the neutral control zone as well. Neutral zone as well, and I'd be looking for a test back up to the exponential on this at the very least. And usually when you do get something like this implied, you're probably going to test up at the very least to the bullish control zone, the edge of it. However, for right now, I'm actually curious if this same sort of signal is potentially available on a 2-day or a 3-day. And yes, it is actually. On a 2-day, we actually have a very interesting hidden bullish divergence potentially in the making here. Now, I would say that this is already confirmed on the 10-hour and 12-hour, not on the daily. The daily, I would like to see take out yesterday's high at 11,715 on this is stamp right now. On a 2-day, I'd want to see, this one's a little more difficult here. On a 2-day, I want to see a closure above 11,750. So probably a daily closure above there that will get it. And that would actually imply a move a little bit higher towards 12,100. So there is great implications of that. It being a higher term time frame would obviously be of more interest. And do we close this one today? No, we do not close this today. We close it tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So it's not necessarily of super important, relevant interest like today, but tomorrow, absolutely. So keep an eye on that, as if Bitcoin does close a daily above 11,750, not only would it then imply move up to the up to that $12,000 region, the 2-day would actually imply all the way back up to 12,100-ish region, with potential for more as well, as this does still look more or less okay. Now, how's the 3-day look, as it will be closing tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time? As long as it maintains the 10 simple, I suppose okay. It does look a little bit tired there. Definitely does also have some regular bearish divergence, but I do believe that you can very easily make the case that we already played that out. This being about a $1,000 move right there, which is almost 9.15% off of a pretty anemic divergence read to begin with. I do think actually already has played it out. But again, at the end of the day, the ranges are what I trade off of. So while I am kind of giving my opinion right here, understand that I never trade my opinion. I trade technical analysis, and well, don't really even need to. Also should probably say this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is the furthest thing from financial advice. Let's go see how the weekly closed as well, as it did set in stone last night. And okay, so we have a very similar interplay right here, and now I want to go a little bit more deep into the TA nerd session of this. I guess it's a little bit early for that, but I have a feeling that this video is going to be a little bit shorter in nature. So let's go over here to the weekly first, and I want to take this off, and we'll focus down on this. So what are we looking at right now? Well, actually, let's pull up this chart right here. Yeah, there we go. That looks a little bit better. Okay, and we can actually get, well, we might as well keep this area in. Well, first and foremost, let's actually talk about this. So this same trend line at the $11,500 region, which Bitcoin has been getting rejected from for the last 3 years since January 2018, was actually taken out officially 3 weeks ago, right here on the first week of August, then confirmed on the second week of August, retested just the last week. And as long as we maintain above it, we actually do have a change of behavior here still. You can see that it's clearly using this area to base off of, as it does take out the macro area at 11,500 on a very strong weekly closure. So as long as it is doing something like this, and especially creating these higher wick lows that you see on these last few weeklies, while it kind of grinds up at the top side of the Bollinger Bands, that is actually a very strong signal. And it's something that we have seen before in Bitcoin's history, going back right on over here, where Bitcoin put in an ascending triangle on the actual lows in December 2018, really January 2019. Same thing over here. Bitcoin put an ascending triangle actually on the highs of this rally, continuation formation, whereas this one was more of a reversal, obviously, but getting that first major girthy green dildo back above the topside Bollinger Band, which has historically meant for Bitcoin that it is ready to trend for a good amount of time. And we'll go over a few other examples after that. You do see that Bitcoin then spends about 3-4 weeks grinding this area out, actually getting a rejection right here. But you'll notice that all of these wicks are rising. Bitcoin never goes below the prior weekly low, and as it grinds this area out, it just turns into a nice constructive consolidation. And then once Bitcoin closes back above the topside Bollinger Band once again, massive girthy green dildo party all the way up from, this is $5,000 to $14,000. Pretty damn impressive move for 167%, as you just saw right there. And we have a very similar read right here as well. We do see that Bitcoin's operating in an ascending triangle, blasts to the upside, grinds this area out a little bit, and as long as we have these rising wicks, which by the way, last week's wick low is 11,367, then well, we have that same sort of signature. And we can go back through this in the past as well. Anytime that Bitcoin closes above the topside Bollinger Band, typically is ready to trend. And usually in the past, well, at least in this past run from 2015 to 2020, or sorry, not 2020, but 2017, or I guess end of 2017, Bitcoin would put in its rallies above the topside Bollinger Band and then base off the 20 simple on its bullish dumps the whole way through for 3 years straight, actually. And this is consistent with what we saw back on over here as well, going all the way back to 2012. I mean, even, well, we can't really talk about 2011. It's too far back there. Don't have enough price action history to really populate it correctly. But then again in 2013, again in 2014, and then several times throughout 2015 to 2018, and then once again in 2019, and then now we see it in 2020 as well. Now that is also going to be on top of a few other things of which we covered quite significantly about a week ago, and I haven't really been talking about it since, but I suppose now would be a good time as we've already kind of beat the lower term time frame horse to death. But looking at this right here as well, we do see another very interesting read on weekly RSI. Anytime that weekly RSI has gotten into the bullish control zone and maintained in the bullish control zone, of which you do see that we're doing that right now, that has been the start of, well, essentially those same sort of rallies. In fact, telling you much sooner than the Bollinger Bands as well. So let's pick out another example right here. This was just getting the bullish control zone in 29th of April 2019, and where was price action? That was coming out of this base right here. Sounds familiar, right? It's quite literally the same fucking move. And what do we have if we go back into the annals of history, back down towards 2015 to 2018? Same sort of thing. Anytime it gets into the bullish control zone right here, boom, rally. Bullish control zone right here, boom, rally. I mean, these are and these don't look all that impressive because it's on log scale, but that's an 86.5% rally. Same thing right here. This one gets back into the bullish control zone. Next high, 70.25% rally. This one right here, just like a few weeks later, after correcting back down to the 10 simple, puts in a 67% rally. Again, it doesn't look like anything on this because it is on log scale, but this rally right here, rather impressive as well, giving you about 158%. And the same thing, so on and so forth, as we go further and further across time. And same thing, all the way back to the Genesis as well, telling you right here about this move, which got 150% after that signal was given. This move over here, which was probably a little bit of an outlier, giving you 2,100% to the upside. I'm not suggesting that these numbers are going to be accurate. I'm just giving a little bit of a range here, because as of right now, when we do have the same signal on Bitcoin, which has produced those last few runs, not just on the RSI, but also on Bollinger Bands, as we just spoke about. Let's just play around with numbers. As Bitcoin did get in the bullish control zone right here on this week, what if Bitcoin, put in, now I'm not going to use like the 1,600% numbers, but what if it was like a 40% one? That actually put us back around, well, actually 50% puts us right back around, this is actually really interesting here, 50% puts us back around 16,000-ish region, which is definitely going to be an area of interest if Bitcoin does blast the upside over these next few months. And then 20,000 is actually 85%, both kind of within the same ranges of what we saw during the 2015 to 2018 rally. Again, not to say that implies it, just kind of doing some fun mental masturbation to kind of play around during these times, as the stuff that I typically use already covered in the beginning of this video, and not really anything to add on to there. Also, weekly Stokes, we can make another interpretation of this as well. Hold on, let me just close this window over here. Hey, stop that. All right, there we go. And I am recording, and the microphone's working, so that's also really, really good, because I do not want to re-record this video. My speech is already fucked up enough, man. How many more times am I going to fuck up here? Looking at the weekly Stokes, anytime that we've seen it get into the critical zone, Usually been good things. Not as accurate as the RSI or the Bollinger Bands, but does tell you a lot faster typically, as as it is, well, as that's how it's designed essentially. But same sort of areas right here, telling you not on the last week of April 2019 about that rally, but on the first week of April in 2019. So it's telling you, it's giving you that signal right here out of this space. Same thing all the way back on all these rallies in 2015 to 2018 region, right here, right here, right here. And these are all the same areas essentially, going back in time. And then same thing, from the genesis on these runs in 2012 and 2013 right here. Don't necessarily want to measure them out again because you already fucking know. And this is just also very, par for the course on Bitcoin price action, as anytime that we've seen Bitcoin put in like a 3-month consolidation, typically in the formation of a triangle, not always, but typically, while historical volatility percentile does contract extremely aggressively into sometimes even single digits. And what we saw over here was very much an outlier as we got into 0 digits, like literally 0 reads from multiple weeks on end. Breaking out of that area as well typically does provide, as you can see back on over here in beginning of 2019, we see it get all the way down just to single digits, not even to zeros, and then boom, massive move up. Same thing to the downside right here on this ascending triangle as it gets extremely low over the course of about 3 months, and then boom, big 50% move to the downside right there. To the upside, we see the same thing coming out of the last few major pivots on the market, but not going to give you as many of those signals, of course. In fact, rather rare. But when it does show itself, well, you've seen the results in the past. So, it's not for me to say, what to expect or what to do or anything like that. I'm just presenting the information here, and you are free to make the decisions however you deem fit or however you decide. But overall, the levels that I've been looking at are pretty much, essentially what I'm going off of. So there's not really, can kind of figure out what I'm thinking from just that, I would imagine. But overall, this is rather well defined. We've been putting in this sideways consolidation here for the last 3-4 weeks now. So things are getting, rather ready. And if I am going to be going off of momentum oscillators, I would favor the upside. I would favor the upside here over the downside. Also, it just being trend, and the trend is your friend at the end of the day. I have no real reason to be looking for an actual reversal, especially if this is going to be your next higher low until Bitcoin closes a daily below 11,500. So this has slowly been walked up from 10,900 to 11,050 to 11,400, which we are using recently. And with the advent of the last of this last weekend, we can now move up that higher low structure to 11,500. That means if Bitcoin does close below 11,500 on a daily, very likely we do see actually a move back down to 11,000 with a bounce along the way, probably at 11,200. But overall, I would be looking for a test back down around there. And what's very problematic about that is that would imply that we would have a lower wick on the weekly as well. That does not necessarily imply that there's going to be reversal, but this would be, a shooting star plus continuation to the downside. On top of that, if we were to take out 11,370 to the downside, and usually will initiate a move down to the 10 simple off of a read like that. So, there are things definitely within the cards right now, but the areas are so well defined that I'd really be going off of that first and foremost on top of anything else. And of course, what's also very important is that we are going to be closing the monthly in just about a week here. Let me just double check. Yeah, well, exactly 1 week from today. So there's 1 week of trading left in the month of August. And what I want to say about this is that the monthly for perspective is still looking very, very good. The monthly is clearly in an uptrend. Actually confirmed that, confirmed continuation as of last month's close. You have your low here, higher low right here. We closed on higher highs above July 2019 highs. So obviously continuation is is the next step on top of that. The question is, where do we set in the next high, the next high? And looking at momentum oscillators, I seem to agree as well. Looking at monthly Stokes, nice and erect to the upside. Looking at monthly Joule, giving you a hot or long signal as well, although these can take a very long time to play out. And in monthly RSI is actually looking like an inverted head and shoulders and is looking constructive here. And because we are in the TA nerd session, I can say things that are maybe a little bit more on the fringe. This is an inverted head and shoulders over here, and it would actually imply a target all the way back up to the low side of the bullish control zone, just above 13,000, which is interesting. Now, that does not imply like today or tomorrow, but maybe over the next couple months, if that does play out. And what's also even more interesting is the fact that we can look at the bi-monthly, which is closing as well. And a bi-monthly close anywhere above 11,000 is very likely to beget continuation I mean, personally speaking, I'd be looking for another retest of this close right here and of this wick right here, and that would be in the upper $13,000 region. Momentum oscillators agree here as well, although we don't necessarily have that much history. So how much do you trust it? I don't think that you can really say anything, direct there. But looking at bi-monthly Stokes, looking, what would be considered good, although I would like to see more history again, and bi-monthly RSI looking, well over here as well, especially if it closes above 11,800, officially getting into the bullish control zone once again. If those things happen, I very likely would be looking for that next leg up. So, could it be that we backfilled all the way down to 10.9 or 11,000? Yeah, possible. I mean, could even come all the way back down here towards 10.5. Very possible. But overall, the structure would be set, and I don't really have a reason to be bearish on a chart that looks like this long term. But of course, when we're looking at it bi-monthly, what are we talking about? We're talking about like 6 months to a year of price action. It's not happening anytime soon. So as we know, or as you probably know, Bitcoin can get quite volatile and can get quite crazy. So at the end of the day, blindly trading an area like that is going to be very difficult, especially when it comes to managing risk and looking at the volume profile as well. I do want to remind myself that on the weekly right here, Bitcoin did it officially get above the area or not? It's officially at the area. Yeah. So we're at the last of the last high value nodes here. Now, this is only relative to what surrounds it. Obviously, this area over here in the mid 9,000s, 8,000s, 7,000 or 6,000s and 4,000s, are relatively much more thick than what we see right here. But that again speaks to, kind of what we see in price action. The ranges are going to be bigger now. They're naturally going to be more volatile. You're going to see much more floaty price action. That's what I mean by something like this. It would also imply that if Bitcoin actually does take a leg up here, especially into the $13,000 region, I mean, this is just a whole new world, essentially. I mean, if you think Bitcoin's volatile right now, where it can play out like $1,000 move in one day and not even change the daily trend, which that happened literally fucking last week. I mean, we saw Bitcoin go from 12.5 to 11.5, and the trend is still up. The trend is still fucking up right there, as you can see. At least as it is right now. It doesn't mean that it can't change, but that is that's going to get even more violent as time goes on, assuming that Bitcoin does work its way up and onwards here. Also, while we are here on the Challenger bands, let's go back down to the daily. I thought that this was interesting as well. Bitcoin did find its footing off of the bottom side Challenger band. We are getting quite tight here as well, by the way, and that is going to suggest that Bitcoin does have a move relatively soon, probably this week, I would say, to the top side or bottom side of this, seeing as we just tested the bottom side of it. It is a little bit of a ticking time bomb, as you do see that the 20 simple on the Challenger bands is technically still having a positive slope, which tells me that this is not necessarily a bearish read right here and could be a bear trap as long as we're below it. If you're trading this from a Challenger band perspective. However, if Bitcoin fails to get back above the 20 simple, probably in these next couple of days here, which is currently at 11,750. That number keeps on rearing its ugly head, doesn't it? Then obviously it will start to get a negative slope, and we very likely will turn down. But until then, I do still think that Bulas have the ball in their court here. It's very, very difficult for me to go against the overall daily trend. Again, doesn't mean that things can't change around. They certainly can. Just as a trader, I've made a rule to myself. I made an agreement to myself that I do not trade against, or I do not I do not look for a reversal until a reversal has actually happened, as trends are more likely to continue than not. That's the definition of a fucking trend, of course. Anyways, let's go over and check out world markets right now. We do have futures back open and trading for the week, and we are pretty much looking for new all-time highs coming into this week, as we said last week. So let's see if that's already happening. And what do you fucking know? New all-time highs on NASDAQ. And did I throw out a target for this one as well? Yeah, I did. Looks like I was targeting actually, well, 11.6 right here is one of them, but it looks like it's gonna take this area out. I only look at this as a short-term area right here. I do think that the measure move up to the 2.618 fib extension to 11,700 very likely gets hit as well. I mean, this is, again, I do think that this one has more upside to go, but it is starting to get a little bit more frothy. But yes, still some more upside. to go, and then we'll come back maybe in like a few months and judge it. If this one does put in a major high, also understand that probably happens over the course of a few months, not necessarily in just one day. Also, E-mini futures, what do we see here? Oh, do we see new all-time highs? I think that we see new all-time motherfucking highs, and still looking for this measure move all the way up to 314, or sorry, 314. Wow, Krown. Wow, you literally can't even speak English. 34.14 and a quarter, in line with the measure move right here, and also on new all-time highs. And by the way, we have new all-time weekly closing highs. Or actually, no, we do not. Yes, we do. Yeah, we do. 33.92 and a half versus 33.81. Yes, indeed, we do. All right, so we have new weekly all-time closing highs, plus the monthly already closed on new all-time highs last month anyway. So that's why we did have this bullish bias for retesting the overall high, which has happened now, and I'd say, very likely to produce some new all-time highs up to that next target, and then probably a short-term pullback from there. And I'd like to, reanalyze it again. But again, we're getting into uncharted territory here. So realistically, the only way that I kind of judge highs when an asset gets into blue sky breakout territory is divergences on higher time frames, like a daily and no less than a daily, and maybe even a weekly. Weekly typically will call the reversal. Daily will give you a prior warning notice. It's usually how it's going to work. Not always, but in a move like this, it's better to just let it play out and not try to pick the top before it actually gets put in. I've seen way more people. It's actually a really good topic to get onto, but I've seen way fucking more people go absolute fucking broke, trying to time the top and trying to time the bottom than they have just trying to trade a trend. Yes, it's not anything glorious. It's not anything, that's going to create a lot of fucking buzz and hype on like a Twitter post or something, but that is real trading from the way that I've seen. Not to say that you can't pick the ultimate high or the ultimate low, but understand that like when you are talking about ultimate highs and ultimate lows, that's really typically created only by like one person. Only one person gets to like buy the ultimate low and sell the ultimate top. So when you beat yourself up a little bit too much about like not catching the absolute tippy top of that move, and selling there, for example, understand that, you don't need to do that. You don't need to be perfect in order to make money. You don't need to catch about if you catch about 60 to 70% of a move, I think that's actually pretty fucking good. Especially if the hit rates of that is going to be higher to begin with. Let's go check out gold as well, playing out that gold actually looking a little bit droopy here. Gold looking a little bit droopy. Let's look at weekly. I'd still be looking for a range, I guess all the way down to the 10 simple, like 1890. Daily is kind of strange here too. Anywhere above, what is this high right here? Yeah, 1956. And I'd look for another short-term move back up to like 1980-ish region. But to me, it looks, it looks like it's ready to test the downside once again. Actually, daily Stokes look like they probably want to turn down again too. Yes, indeed, they do. And daily RSI is potentially built. Well, no, it's not really doing anything there. Yeah, I'd probably, if anything, I'd probably be looking for some downside here. Probably another swipe of these lows, and then yeah, if things do break below, especially Friday's low at 1911, I'd be looking for extension all the way down to about 1880 to 1875 region. Okay, what else do we have? We don't have like actual stocks trading because it's only futures open right now. Maybe euro dollar. Let's go check out some forex time right now. And there's some massive bearish divergence. I do think that the bearish divergence easy move is already kind of played out here though. 1, 2, 3 stabs all the way down to the 21. Not bad. But overall, it's kind of the same thing as Bitcoin. It's kind of not. You see it grinding up against a very, 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 very critical resistance here at the $119.50 region, or I guess it's 119.5. It just absolutely stabbed right into the backside of that blue box territory. Now it is maintaining above a very long-term trend line at the same time. I guess this is on linear scale. Yeah, it must be. No, that doesn't look right either. Yeah, that does not look right. All right, well, fair enough. I guess it would be above. Okay, so that actually looks that's actually another point in the Barrow's court then, I suppose. But still, until it actually breaks below 117.5, I wouldn't be looking for any sort of big move back down to like 115.5. And as I've been saying for a while I do think that it puts in a very major high here, it probably takes like a couple months to put it in. So looking at the monthly right here for perspective, it's also the monthly 200 exponential moving average that we are grinding up against alongside this major long-term trend line, which is also synonymous with these horizontals right here. here, which I trust a lot more in, of course. So looking at this right now, you know, if it is going to put in a high, it probably doesn't fall through to the downside until like September, maybe October. Which is kind of right around the corner. But look at this. It is also lining up with the historical volatility percentile read on the weekly as well, coming down a very, 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 very aggressively here, all the way down to like a 15 in the mid-teens there, as you can see, after being redlining all the way up to like 100 read, you know, like quite literally 100. So this is very aggressive right now, and that is going to build up a very big case over the next probably like month to 2 month territory, of which then we can expect a big move, and that actually would give it the juice to either absolutely blast above this level right here, 119.5, initiating targets all the way up to 125 region, maybe even higher than that over time, or or break down here at the very least to 115.5, but you know, very likely just puts in a major high here and comes all the way back down to new lows. So that's what I'd be looking at right now. Now, I have been on the record as saying that I am massively bullish on Dixie long term, but that is long term. That does not mean this year. That does not mean next year. I'd probably give that like a 4 to 10 year run. It's it's not anytime soon, but this does look like it's under very long term accumulation. But can this one come lower in the next couple of years? Yes, absolutely. But for right now, bouncing off that same area that we see euro dollar selling off of at the 200 exponential average on the monthly here. So I do think that it puts in some time grinding this area out and then tries to put in a rally probably back up towards 95.5 bucks. And then we'll come back to it after that. Same thing on the weekly as well. You can see that it is kind of finding its footing too. Let's go check out Mr. Buterol as well while we're here. I guess this one's also relevant. And what do we see? Is that a tweezer top? I wouldn't necessarily call it such. I do think that this one probably pops back up towards 407.25 as well, short term. Very, very low time frames. Actually looks a little bit more droopy in comparison to Bitcoin, as we did not make a new high on that last little run above the high of the 22nd of August, whereas Bitcoin did. If this one does break down, I'd be looking for a move all the way back down here towards 365 to 370. Yes, somewhere right here. Yeah, we'll just call it 365, and probably bounce there as well. How does monthly look like on this one? Ooh, man, this one gonna have this one will potentially have a chance to do something quite nasty before end of month, but obviously way too early to call that one. We'll give it we'll see where we are at the end of the week. But for right now, I'd say that Mr. Buterol is certainly not leading this market, and it's kind of up to Bitcoin right now from what I see. So maybe look at Link, one of the other darlings of this market, and perhaps what is he doing? I don't know. This is a strange chart right here. If I'm just going off the weekly, I'd probably say the same thing as Bitcoin. Maybe a short-term move back down to 14 bucks, but I would be looking for a bounce there. Let's see, does that line up with anything else? Yeah, it does. Yeah, strangeness here. 4 hour looks very weak as well. 4 hour looks like it wants to come back down to 13.75. And I'd probably be looking for a bounce there as well. But am I going to be wrong about Bitcoin likely moving its way up on the short-term timeframes? Maybe, yeah. Could be, as all the other alts do not seem to really agree right now. Interesting. Which one do I favor more? Well, I guess this next move will tell us. I mean, if it comes down, then Bitcoin's obviously not leading. It's being led by Buterol. It's being led by Link. And if not, then it's Bitcoin's time to shine, which we would expect to see the Bitcoin dominance we'd expect to see it rally if that was going to be the case. And looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, is this still kind of coming in that same area? Yeah, we did mark this area off as a major bounce area, and we're pretty much there right now. I actually do think that this does move up over the next few weeks. Let's see how the monthly is closing as well. Let's see if this agrees. Yeah, monthly probably does bounce up a little bit as well, but overall, yeah, difficult charts to read. Actually, I think this is the time for me to say a healthy amount of I don't know. There doesn't seem to be like a very specific read that I would be more comfortable going off of. Maybe we could go around some of the other altcoins, see what they're looking like right now. What are some of the other leaders? Well, I guess Ripple's not really a leader, but what is it doing? If it's if it's rallying, then that's typically a good sign, I suppose. No, not really anything obvious here either. What about on a weekly? Not really anything obvious here either. Strange, very, very strange. What about EOS? What's it doing? Kind of maintaining, I suppose. Not really. NEO actually looking good. NEO actually looking pretty good, to be fair. I'd be looking for NEO to work its way back up towards like 22.25. Tron, what are you doing? Same thing. I mean, inconsequential. Can't really make too much out of that. What about altcoins versus Satoshis? Like, is there anything obvious there either? Maybe Link versus Bitcoin really quick. This one seems to get a lot of love on Binance. And what do we see here? Yeah, this one looks like it wants to bounce. Yeah, this one does look more bouncy to me. What about Cardano versus Bitcoin, as we typically follow this one too? This one does not look bouncy. Man, we see a very much bifurcated market. I'd be looking for Cardano to come back down to 950. Yeah, I'd be looking for Cardano to back down to 950-ish region, probably bounce there. Jesus, man. All right, so this market. Actually, most things do not look like they want to go up. Most things look like they want to go down, actually. So I do believe that it is up to Bitcoin right here to maintain these areas. And if it can, yes, I would be targeting that move back up here. Momentum oscillators would be more on the side of that, and we can look at probabilities right now as well. Let me just go find my probability chart. There it is. Found it. Ha. All right, we're already fucking 40 minutes into this video. Jesus, man. And we'll use these areas right here. We can still use 11,700 the upside, although it's obviously going to have a very high probability. But you can see that on the next daily closure, just over 45% probability close above it, versus the downside area at 11,400, which we can actually move up now because the daily did get a higher low close right here. So if you are going to be bullish, you do want to see this area hold. So 11,500 we'll use. So that should actually even the odds quite a bit here. So let's see what this prints. Okay. Yes, did even it quite a bit. However, still in favor of the upside probability by a few odd percent. Just under 39% for the downside probability. Also can see that the error correcting MA on the on Balling Pigs Moms looking like it does want to turn up relatively soon too. It is waning momentum to the downside. Same thing with the regular one too, waning momentum to the downside. 12-hour we'd expect it to be turning. It is turning already, in fact. So on both the error correcting MA and regular Balling Pigs Moms. So would be favoring the upside there too. Also can see that all of the rings are getting a positive slope here on both the 12-hour and the 10-hour, or 12-hour and the daily. Actually, not so much on the daily. No, the daily's actually starting to turn down. So keep that in mind. But let's not just look at the medium-term time frame range, which is that 11.7 to 11.5 region. We could look at the long-term range as well, which I'd put at 12,000 versus 11,000 to the downside. And what do we see here? We do see that the upside is very much favored. Now, of course, we are a lot closer to the upside resolution, but you can see right now that it's essentially suggesting that the ball's in the Boulah's court. If the Boulahs fail to get, to carry on off this higher low this week, then very likely things will fall apart and we'll see the downside targets be met. But for right now, I'd still say that the ball is in the Boulah's court, and it's up to them. You got 1 week, baby, 1 motherfucking week. Now, there's obviously no time frame on this, but I'd imagine that as time goes on, you'll naturally see the probability shift in the favor of the downside if Bitcoin fails to break above even the medium term range here. And as you can see, actually fixed this probability cone up. Credit to Bali for that one, calling this one out. And I was actually looking at the second standard deviation before, not the first standard deviation, which is obviously going to be a little bit more relevant as it's more statistically likely to happen. And what do we see here? We do see that 7 days out, there is a 23.61% probability of getting back above on a daily total closure 12,800. Actually, quite interesting there. To the downside, 9.25% probability of closing below 10,500. Now, 10,500, you will likely remember, is that next would be that next target if Bitcoin did break below $11,000. So it would suggest that yes, we would have a bounce around there, and then we'll come back after that. Very likely the bounce probably does get sold into, and we move a little bit lower below 10,000. But for right now, very interesting on both ways, as it would have great implications for the macro here, as you can see, especially coinciding with the monthly close, as that's quite literally 7 days out to begin with. So overall, if I did have to call it right now, I mean, it does. Bitcoin itself does look like it wants to give a try to the upside. Everything else actually does look down. So are we going to see a bifurcated market here, or are we going to see something completely new go on? Possible, yes, but hey, at the end of the day, I'd still kind of be sticking with these levels. If Bitcoin can close a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo officially above 11,700, yes, I would be looking for extension all the way up here, play out the hidden bullish divergence on the 10-hour, 12-hour, and daily all at the same time, and even initiate some on the 2-day coming into the closure tomorrow night and the 3-day closure tonight. That would all be quite nice too. and potentially imply a little bit more, maybe all the way up to like 12,100. But still, you have to talk about the downside here as well, as it is still relevant, as Bitcoin is not officially overtaken these levels, I suppose. And that would be now moving up to, let's call it 11,450. If Bitcoin closes a 4-hour dildo below there, I'd look for a quick move down to 11,200. Very likely a small bounce there, with continuation implied all the way down to $11,000 base. $11,000 base does have implications for the long term. If Bitcoin were to break it, short-term move down to 10.5 plus continuation down to 98 after a bounce. By the same token, to the upside, 12,000 I'd be using for continuation up to 12.3, and then at that point you have new highs on the rally, and we can just mark off areas of interest for the upside, which we kind of already spoke about, like 13,000, 13,500, and then if that happens, we'll get back to it at that point. But I think this is a good time to wrap up this video. I'd like to wish you well once again. Take care, and until next time.